Hi, and welcome to week 2 of class. We've completed week number 1, and where you looked at all the preliminary and introductory information, plus you read over chapter 1 and actually took the test on that, and hopefully you feel pretty comfortable with how the book reads and kind of what to expect as we go forward in the class. So as you'll recall, the way the class is set up is set up on a weekly schedule. We do the same types of things every week, and we cover similar types of material. There's some deviations to that as we go through the class, but certainly for the next few weeks, it's going to feel like one week's requirements are about the same as the last. All right, and I also I'm using this opportunity to do this video to tell you about what's upcoming that you might want to also start preparing for as well. So obviously we're all in class, we have your tests coming up real soon, so but we do have the work to go through right now. So let's talk about in week 2, we're going to cover chapters 2 and 3. And again, you want to read those. And it's certainly the first part of the week, as you want to get the homework done by Wednesday. That's very important to be able to get that done um, and get it in on time. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at that. I have our textbook open right now. I'm going to go ahead and open that up. Um, and here's how I think a good way to look at the different chapters as a starting point. I really encourage you to take notes. I've mentioned to several of you in our one-on-one meetings that you don't have to write everything down. We have a lot of formulas and a lot of calculations that are described in the class. It's more important to understand what calculations are used for what. Then make a reference in your notes to what page you saw the formula on, and then we can go back to it very quickly if you need to reference it to do a homework problem or something like that. Okay, so the way to take those notes, or the straw man for, if you will, is to take the learning objectives at the very beginning of every chapter. And in this case, chapter 2, we're going to talk about accounting. And here are the learning objectives, or the things you want to walk away with a pretty good idea of to be able to do these. Okay, so learning objective number 1. By the way, we're going to talk about accounting. We don't talk about accounting as a profession or as a function, if you will, in this class very much, but we do have to cover it up front. If you're taking accounting classes before, this will seem like a bit of a review. If you've not taken accounting classes, this is real important that you kind of walk away with a real good understanding what what financial statements are, and how they're used, and how they're actually put together by accountants, and because you're going to use that information quite a bit in the finance world. Okay, so we're going to talk about what an income statement measures, probably the most used of the financial statements that we have. We're going to look at price earnings ratio, indicates relative valuation of earnings. We're going to be able to see how that actually works. We're going to understand that the balance sheet shows the assets and financing of those assets with debt and equity. That's a real important thing to look at. I think of balance sheets as being the financial condition of the company at a point in time. An income statement uh, measures the performance of the company over a period of time. So a balance sheet, a point in time, income statements, cash flow statements are over a period of time. Okay. Um, and then we're going to talk about what cash flow statements are and what they actually indicate. They're not the same. They, at first blush, feel like they're a lot like an income statement, but they're really quite different. They talk about your cash flows. And now we're going to recognize that depreciation provides a tax deduction, and it also increases cash flow. We'll see how that works, but um, there's too much of a good thing here, by the way. You don't want to do that too much, but you want to take full advantage of what you can. Okay, so walk away with those basic understanding those learning objectives, and I think you're in pretty good shape. Let's go ahead and look at chapter 3. I'm going to open up the table of contents because it's the easiest way to get around. And you have to dig in a little bit to get to it. Here's chapter 3. We're going to talk about we're going to start talking about financial analysis. So let me pull that up. And here in financial analysis is a lot of what we're going to do the whole rest of the class, but this is sort of your starting point for it to kind of get an idea of what financial analysis is and some of the tools that go into doing it And then we're going to get into those in quite a bit more detail as we go along in the class. Okay, so your learning objectives are to recognize that ratio analysis provides a meaningful comparison of a company to its industry. Ratios are just the core of financial analysis. So pay close attention to that. Explain what ratios are used and for what they measure. That you're going to look at some of the more common ones. There are more ratios than you can imagine in financial analysis, but there's some key ones that we're going to look at, and they're kind of grouped together in this particular uh, chapter. Recall that the DuPont system of analysis identifies the true sources of return on assets and return to shareholders. Take a good close look at that. It's very commonly used. Detail what trend analysis shows, and explain why reported income must be further evaluated. So dig into those things and get to gain an understanding of that, and you'll have taken away from this chapter what you need to know going forward. As always, if you have any questions as you're reading through it and or when you go through the exercises, let me know. As a reminder, you won't get the answers to your exercises until the deadline has passed. And in this case, it's this Wednesday, excuse me. And after that, you'll be able to take a look at it and learn from what you've done in that work. Okay. Don't hesitate to reach out to me with any questions. That concludes this video. You can expect one of these every week. We'll take a look at what's coming up. Okay. All right. Good luck, and let me know if you have any questions.